Good morning, landscape lovers. I'm Felix from Holygon, and today we'll take a frost-bitten look at the icing on the cake, Landshape's view commands. The view toolbar is up here. Let's break that out to make it more distinguishable, like so. On this toolbar, we've got about 12 different commands. They're also available in the native main menu, like so, here, like so. They're also available via the right-click menu, Landshape, View, which should always be available. Right, let's use the toolbar for now. So among these 12 commands, let's just look at all of them one by one. So here we see two commands. We see the view terrain and the view non-terrain. And they say, this one says toggle non-terrain visibility by tag. What does that mean? It means that if you created a landscape like this and you've placed some houses, trees, vehicles and so on, and these have different tags, then they will be turned on and turned off when you click this button. However, the landscape terrain and what is also other landscape objects, terrain driven objects like the water and the skirt, they will not be turned off. Let's try that. So I click view non-terrain, and what happens? The non-terrain gets hidden. And I turn it on again, and everything is back. So this command will affect anything that you put on a tag of your own. The terrain has, in this case, some water and also a skirt. So if I click on view water, this will toggle the water, and I have two pieces of water here, up here and down here. And note that when you toggle water on and off, and these other things as well, Landshape will not merely turn on and off their tags, but if their geometry, such as this one, the water and the skirt, Landshape will rebuild them for you. We'll get back to that in a minute. So also, some of these view commands have parameters. So for instance, view skirt here. If I click view skirt, I turn the skirt off. And if I click it again, I turn it on. But note here that in the VCB, the value control box down to the lower right, we can see that the parameter has been opened up and it says 6 meters now. So, and also note that up here, you can see that the skirt is active. You can see the command skirt and its height. The height is 6 meters. And this means that the elevation, the distance between the lowest point in the terrain and the lowest point in the skirt is 6 meters. It's still open, so I can type now. So let's say I type 20 meters and see what happens. Now the skirt is 20 meters deep at minimum. Okay, I think 6 is just right. So I'll put it back where it was. Next command is this one. It says view edge, and it toggle terrain edge visibility. So this can be very useful if you wish to understand the exact topology of your terrain mesh. Let's turn it on. And here we can see how the edges that make up the terrain mesh look like. So this is most useful when you edit and wish to have detailed control. However, when you present, it's probably better to keep this view off. By the way, this is currently the only command in Landshape which merely replicates a a setting which is already shipped in SketchUp natively. So if you go up to View Hidden Geometry, does the same thing, but it's so useful that we put it on its own button. Next, we have View Face, and it toggles terrain surface between faceted and smoothed. So if I click this, you can see how the terrain surface becomes smooth. And note that this is only smooth shading. The geometry itself is completely unaffected. So if I click it again, I will see the faceted shading, which is typically much more useful if you really want to edit the terrain, because it is much more revealing in terms of topology. So you can really see where the surface begins and how it undulates. So I recommend you to use this faceted view when you're working with terrain editing. So we got a few commands here to the right. Let's look at them. Next one, I'll turn off the snow layer here, and I'll also turn off the trees. So in order to better understand what the next one does, the next one says View Profile, and this will toggle the hiddenness property of all edges in the terrain on and off. So let's try that. So if I turn it on, you can see that we turn the profile of the edges on and off. And I'll turn it off like so. And this can be useful for presentation purposes. We got a few more, and this one is View Grid, and this will turn a grid on and off. Let's try that. Grid. Okay, looks like so. And note how you can control the spacing of the grid. So if I type 10, 20, I get this. If I type 2, I get this. If I type 1, I get this. Okay. And if we combine these views, we can, for instance, turn off skirt. We can turn off the terrain itself, but only keep these lines. It can be useful sometimes to understand the terrain better. Here is View Contour. This is used quite often in practice. It creates terrain isolines. So if we try this, it will look like so. Okay. And here again, we can control the spacing by the VCB. So I will type 1, and Landshape will create contours with an elevation spacing of 1 meter. Let's go for 0.25. I want to. This is useful. This is useful for analysis. Sometimes you can see, for instance, here that the road has a gentle slope downwards, and you can also see that where the contours cross the road, they cross the road perpendicularly in the road's direction of travel. And this is a good thing. This tells you that the road is as it should be. Let's go up to, say, 0.5 meter. There are a few more commands here to look at. Let's go through them as well. I'll turn on the trees and the snow, like so. And what we can look at is this one, the first one. This is View Top. It says toggle view between top parallel and tilted perspective, and that is simply what it does. So I view the terrain from here. I can select something. I don't have to select anything, but if I select, for instance, the terrain or the skirt, and then click View Top, then Landshape will give us a top parallel projection view of what we selected. So The same goes if I select something else, for instance, these two buildings. Let's select them. And if I click view top, this is a toggle. So if I click it again, it will toggle back to a non-top view and non-parallel view, like so. So this is non-parallel, it's perspective, and it's not from the top. But if I click this again, I will go back to top parallel, and this is top parallel. So it changes two camera parameters at once, whether it's the direction from top or not, and the projection, whether it's parallel projection or perspective. Okay. Note also that you can control the orientation of the camera. Landshape will use the dominant orientation among the 4 major orientations. So if the view of the terrain is more tilted to this direction, than to this direction, then view top will automatically apply that. So let's try that. Okay, let's try it again. If I'm more oriented like this, now south will go up. So I'll click on view top. And I have oriented the camera along this axis. Now let's use the last 2 commands. So here we got view fence, and it will turn the visibility of the fences on and off. And what is a fence? A fence is a special type of embed. When you create a road with, for instance, when you create a road via the road command, it will embed the perimeter of the road, the sides of the road, and it will also fence the road. So if I turn on view fence, what we'll get is an overlay, which is available in SketchUp 2023 or later. And here we see these red lines, this one and this one. It means that this is an embed. So we can manipulate embeds. I won't go into that detail now, but you can use stitch to turn embeds on and off, like so. So now I turn 3 of them off. I'll turn them on again. And to understand how view fence can be useful in practice, let's follow along this road and grab, for instance, the grab brush. So typically brushes will do stuff to the terrain vertices. For instance, the grab brush will move stuff up and down, like so. Okay, it doesn't make sense here, but this is what it does. But we can do it in a more sophisticated manner. So if I undo, sometimes you can see that the preview gets a bit stuck. Then you can simply toggle view fence on and off again, like so. And we're back. So let's try the fences. So if I click F6 on my keyboard or right click while I'm in one of these brushes, I can go from ignore fence to stop on fence, and note how the vertex preview stops at the fence. But you can also stop by the fence like this, and it won't even touch the fence. So for instance now, if I use the grab brush and go up, I will not affect the road. The road is completely unaffected. And the same here, like so. And let's try it over here. Let's make it a bit bigger, like so. There we go. Yes. And I can do the same on the other side. So it looks like we've blown our way through the cliffs here. Okay, so now I turn off this, and all we have is one last view command to look at. So let's say that things get out of sync. For instance, that you do something to the terrain and these view objects no longer concur with the terrain. And this can happen as you edit. This button is your friend. It says update view, refresh active view items. So what's that? So for instance, if I undo my edits, I turn on contours, get this, maybe 1 meter will suffice here. So I got these contours. Now, if I go back here and edit the terrain, see what happens? Not all view items will be updated in real time. The terrain will, but the contours won't. So now the contours are no longer in sync with the terrain. And the same goes here. If you can see this, here's a small gap between the skirt and the terrain. And the same is true for the water. What you can do to rebuild all of these items automatically according to the current state of the terrain is simply to click this one, Update View. So let's try that and see if it works. Yes, Sketchup rebuilt all of these view items according to the current state of the terrain. And that wraps up our look at Landshape's view commands. They are in order: view top, view non-terrain, view terrain, view water, view skirt, edge, face, profile, fence, contour, grid, and update view. At Holygon, we believe that landscaping should be fun, and if you wish to get a taste of that fun and try out some of these things yourself, then head over to holygon.com, and here under products you can download a free 30-day trial of Landshape and our other public extensions, or go directly to the shop and place an order for a free, light, or pro Landshape subscription. For more videos, check back soon, and thank you very much.